Frosted mini-wheats. Catch like the sweet side. Frosted mini-wheats. Gonna flick the weak side. Here comes the cops to snatch my pot. But the LAPD should've eat their Wheaties. So come and try to grab it, you fucking silly rabbit. I'm slamming fruity pebbles like a fucking dope habit. Rice stream gives me nice dreams. Lactose cuidado. Piso mojado. Snap, crackle, pop, pop, pop. Frosted mini-wheats.
Let's talk. Nice.
So if you are just starting here and you're listening to this just now because it posted, I want you to stop. And I want you to go find Food Coma Podcast with Joe Ricchio, Ricchio, because this is actually part 2. We did part 1 over at Joe's place, and if you want all the cross-references and stupid jokes to really make sense, you're going to want to hear part 1 over at the Food Coma Podcast. Now, that little ditty at the top, if you're joining us from Joe's podcast, first of all, welcome. Thanks for coming over. First time, subscribe, share, whatever. But hang out and enjoy it. Glad to have you here. And that song at the top, Frosted Mini-Wheats, I included. It was in Joe's episode, but I put it at the top here just to give people context of Joe and I have been friends for a long time, and we've created things together for a long time, and often, and mainly the reason for us doing these things because it was fun for us, or we thought it was funny. We have not yet had our Aykroyd/Belushi commercial breakthrough, but who knows? Maybe it's in the cards. But yeah, Frosted Mini-Wheats we made because we made it. We were singing it, and everyone's roles became very apparent. Joe Ricchio, my guest today, is a Portland-based food writer, although he does have to have national acclaim and recognition. He actually is remarkably popular. And I say that not because I'm surprised that he's popular, but it's just because he's my friend, and sometimes I just kind of see how big a sway he has over the food industry. It's like, wow, holy shit, good job, Joe. So Joe is a talented chef in his own right. He hasn't owned his own place, but he knows food, he can cook, he knows how to render the food. So when he speaks about food, he knows what he's talking about. He's also an expert on hospitality and spirits and wines and all things food service. If you go out to eat with Joe, let's just hope someone else is paying, because that motherfucker knows how to order some food. So we thought we would do a little switcheroo and do half the show over on his podcast. Again, Food Coma Podcast with Joe Ricchio, and then the second half here at Spencer Explores the Universe, where you are. Unnecessary to say. Spencer Explores the Universe is brought to you, as you may know already, by Maine Spirits, who bring all the great spirits and liquors into the great state of Maine. You can hang out until the end of the show, and we have our usual episode of Happy Hour, wherein I show you how to make drinks at home, and what a convenient thing for a time like this. You can learn more at mainspirits.com. You can follow them on Instagram at main_spirits, or download their app for your smartphone, but not for your dumb phone, because it won't work. The show is also brought to you by Sun Tiki Studios on Forest Avenue in Portland, Maine. Sun Tiki Studios is a top-notch rehearsal and performance facility. If you have an idea in your head, you can work it out over at Sun Tiki. And now that we are starting to reopen, they are finding ways to facilitate rehearsals safely, and as performances can become a thing, they're on it. They are being super clean and super mindful of everyone's safety. So suntikistudios.com for more information, or you can follow them on Facebook. And as always, we are brought to you by Bull Moose. And whereas this is kind of a two-parter show, we'll just jump right into this week's Bull Moose Minute. Lots to get through this week. Starting on May 25th, the Airborne Toxic Event, Hollywood Park CD or Black Vinyl, Mikel Jolette Hollywood Park hardcover book, and the Hollywood Park Bundle colored vinyl and hardcover book. Mikel Jolette, frontman of the Airborne Toxic Event, wrote a memoir. It deals with growing up in and leaving a very violent cult. He was a writer before he was a songwriter, so it's actually a really good book, and it'll be a big hit with all y'all NPR folk, which includes me. Even if you haven't heard of the band, which includes me. And the only way to get the colored vinyl is to buy the book at Bull Moose. What else we have? Mac Miller, Circles on clear vinyl. This is the album he was working on when he passed away. It's already out on CD and digital. Tobley McSmith, Stay Gold, hardcover. This is a coming-of-age teen love story about a transgender boy who's going stealth at his new Texas high school and a cisgender girl who's drawn to him, even as she's counting down the days till graduation. We also have The Deer Hunter, now out on 4K UHD, and The Invisible Man, the Elizabeth Moss starring 2020 version. All of these titles are available at bullmoose.com for delivery or curbside pickup, and now a lot of the stores are starting to open back up, so you can go in and shop for your own music and books and videos and do so safely. Thanks for coming over. Are you wearing your face mask over your eyes?
I am. I'm wearing a burqa.
Oh, good.
Just
I think that'll
just
work
to make
for you.
sure.
That'll work for you.
I just, I'm feeling very chaste today.
Whatever. So you know what I was thinking about talking to you about, because I, obviously, like during these weird times, right? There's the older I get, the more I become a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B guy, right? There's a lot more. I see more and more gray area, which is something my mother always used to say when I was younger, and I'm like, I don't know what you mean, but like, I get it. Like, it's not necessarily all of one thing and none of the other, or vice versa. So does this pandemic suck? Oh, what a piece of shit. It definitely sucks, but there are silver linings to it. For instance, the way my wife and I eat now and how we eat and where we're getting our food and how we're preparing that food is actually going to last beyond this period of time and was actually what we wanted to be doing before, but we were just too busy. So that's a positive that has come out of it.
Yes, definitely a positive.
But that said, I also miss like crazy the ability to go to the places and enjoy the work of people that I admire, be they chefs or record store owners or what have you, like musicians, all that stuff. So I'm really missing that part. So I thought it would be fun for you and I to kind of discuss what we miss about the before times, as Mark Hibbard refers to it.
Yep.
The before, what we miss about the before times, and also what we don't miss about the before times.
Yeah, we can we can definitely discuss that. I think it's funny. It's one of those things where a lot of the things that we can't do currently, it's almost like I wouldn't actually do them anyway. But I liked knowing that I could do them.
Fair.
If I wanted to, and I don't like knowing that I can't. Which I think is obviously
it's like that movie on Netflix that you're never going to watch, but when the second they take it off Netflix, you're like, I want to watch that. Now I'm going to rent it.
Missed opportunity. Yeah.
I can't have it now.
What I've liked about it is I take these kind of periods of time. I was injured for a while last winter.
Right.
When I know I'm going to be kind of stuck in one place. And I get really obsessed with one kind of cuisine, and this time it's been Indian food.
I've been seeing
those
posts.
I go online. Yeah, I go online and I just put together what I call the Indian Ultra Pantry, which is just every hard to find thing you can imagine, and just cook that food, for weeks on end, and then walk away with kind of a new skill set. It's because you really, when you're doing it constantly, you start to understand it, and you don't need recipes anymore, and you're able to improvise and combine other techniques. So that's one thing I definitely like about this. I don't like the fact that I live in Yarmouth, and the only delivery places are both pizza places. That makes me literally just even the Chinese restaurant doesn't deliver. So that's been infuriating at times when I don't want to cook.
What I like about this is that I'm spending more time doing things that I've wanted to spend more time doing, like organizing my professional life, like the business side, which I've just never had time to do. And now I have to do it because things need to be organized, or I won't, as a business person, the business of music, survive it. So that I've liked. What I don't like is that I live in Portland right now because I actually finally got through to my dad. Not that I got through to him, but I was able to offer a perspective that he could really kind of understand where I'm coming from. Because I think sometimes my anxieties kind of elude him. Why? Well, what are you nervous about? Kind of thing, And he was parlaying a story or recounting a story about how he and my mother, on their way home, dipped into Hannaford really quick to get, they wanted to get scallops or something. And so he's like, so I walk down this aisle and, there's a person. And so they're coming at me. So I turn around and and I try to go down the next aisle and someone's coming at me. That's a one-way. And I was like, pause 1 second. I live in Hannaford. That's where I live. I don't like that I am viewing, I get really sad when I think about every time I see a mother and their child, right, walking down the street, and I'm like, dun dun dun. I don't that is the least threatening combination of people, But just because of the now times, it's that kind of instant. Every time I take a walk in Portland, it feels like the level of kind of heightened awareness and danger that if you were walking home late night alone, from a club in a not great neighborhood, everything's every sound is, so I don't like that. And
I feel like I take comfort in the outdoors, though. I feel like it feels safer to me to be outdoors than to be in a grocery store.
Oh, absolutely. But you just have more of it in Yarmouth. So just for every right. Cuisine that you can't have delivered to your door, maybe just for perspective's sake, you can be thankful that you have space, to feel safe in. And also you're equipped to be able to kind of travel the world, so to speak, because you understand food and how it works.
Yes. So that has been nice.
Mm-hmm. I don't. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't love the one-way aisles and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't always. I'll admit I don't always follow that rule.
Mm-hmm.
I've only been called out on it once.
Mm-hmm.
I was not nice to the person who called me out,
mm-hmm.
and they at one point they saw me later and they in an aisle and they definitely were avoiding me. They took off and went the other way.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I get it, but then sometimes I'm just all right, everybody here is crossing paths. You can do that with these aisles, but we're still close to each other in the produce section, and you're still there's still going to be, if you're in a store,
mm-hmm.
you're not going to be able to maintain the distance the whole time.
It's sometimes the illusion of safety is enough for people.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. That's why I guess that's why I try to follow it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I don't feel bad, because I'm like, hey, I'm wearing a mask. I didn't wear a mask for the first few weeks,
mm-hmm.
But then I finally, I'll admit that I didn't take it as seriously as I should have
mm-hmm.
from the beginning. A lot of people, I wasn't throwing at people's faces or those people that go around and touch people.
Mm-hmm.
But I was definitely okay, this seems like a very strong reaction, and mm-hmm. I would go to the store without a mask on, and then finally, after my dad almost died from it, I started wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's weird. It's talking about things I don't like. It's yes, I like that the grocery stores are still open. I don't like going to them.
No.
I really have to need something, or it's just every trip every trip's an adventure to the grocery store.
Yeah, not a fun one necessarily. So
no.
What else do I miss? I miss going to concerts. I miss playing them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Or not that I would have played so many concerts in between mid-March and now, but like it's that everything that was on the books, and we had some really tremendous shows on the books that I was very excited about, but it's just also the staring into the abyss of the future of like, oh, when do we get to play again? I don't know.
Yeah, there's literally no certainty.
What I don't miss, however, is when you're at a concert and there's the person who's very clearly been crushing like PBR or whatever cheap beer and farts in the crowd. I don't miss that at all.
Oh my God, that reminds me of I went to a show at the State Theater a few years back. It was Eddie Izzard.
Yeah.
And it was like, the ventilation in there isn't optimal, but it's an old building, and it was like probably one of the hottest days in August.
Sure.
So it is very hot in there.
It is very hot.
It's like Eddie Izzard, and it's Eddie Izzard. But there was somebody like two or three seats down from me that kept burping, and it would literally travel down to me and like hover in front of my face every time for like 3 solid seconds. And I'm just like, this is so disgusting. Like, and I'm like, this is just like a petri dish here, like this person's it was like the closest I've ever been able to come to like seeing somebody's breath or burp, I don't know, in a non-cold environment. It was wretched. I don't miss that. Doesn't happen to me here.
I do miss a number of restaurants that I don't have access to right now.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't miss the notion that this overreaching, self-aggrandizing attitude of the overall I almost said music scene, food scene, which is just like, oh, we are amazing, aren't we? Oh, we are just an incredible visionary group of people. It's like, yep. Your restaurant is very good. Here's my money. Cool it.
yeah. You have good food. Thank you.
Thank you for the good food.
Yeah. The Portland hype thing, I mean, I've never been a big fan of it. I don't think that it's ever been healthy necessarily. I mean, sure, it brings more people here, but it really just causes more places to open, and then the pool gets spread that much thinner.
That's right.
The worst was when the first time, the 2010-11 era, particularly bad wave of restaurants opened up back then, just for like no reason, just because they're like, oh, Portland's hot, I should open a restaurant here. Now, we've got that strip in Washington Avenue where you've got a lot of quality there,
a lot of good stuff.
And it's like, and it's interesting even seeing how everybody's reacting now to the situation. Different, at first it was everybody kind of the same thing, and then everybody realized that this was not going to be over anytime soon. So you're going to have to figure out a business plan or not have a business.
Well, what would have happened eventually anyway? There's a certain aspect of this, this field fire, right? That is the now times. That, obviously, sadly, and I don't have ill wishes for anybody. I feel bad for anybody who's like signed a lease. They have that responsibility, that debt, that's their income. They have employees. I don't want anyone to lose their gig, but I just think that reality speaks to this is going to be a bit of a culling in a way, and not in a thoughtful or good way. It just it is what it is kind of way. But what we were doing before, I think, was already unsustainable, because if you think about Local 188, when we worked at Local 188, at that moment at Local 188, a lot of the people who were working either back of house or front of house at Local 188 during that time, if they are still in the business, they own or are running their own place. Right. So, but at that time, you had everybody just kind of in one spot. And then there were a number of other restaurants where that was also the case. And now it's like, you could probably go to like you could probably go to 4th Street or in the before times, towards right up recently, and you could go to any really like great restaurant, that has, great credentials and history, and you've probably got a line cook whose last job was like Applebee's, Because
I mean,
because it was like it was spread so thin.
I've had restaurant owners offer me literally like finder's fee. Like they're like, if you find me a line cook and he stays for like 3 months or like a month, I'll pay you $300. Like that's how
bad it is.
Desperate people are. I don't think it's as much the case in the front of the house, although there are some shit servers out there.
No, it is the case in the front of the house. It is the case. I mean,
is it still okay?
I mean, it's
seems
not
like the back of the house
now,
is suffering more.
In the before times, definitely.
Well, at least in the front of the house, at least you can make money. But in the back of the house, they're like, 40 hours. I'm making how much? Like, $15 an hour. Like, well, after taxes, that's like shit. It's like, whereas, you have somebody else who has the potential to make $300 or $400 a night.
Yeah, I don't. That's also not sustainable, and that needs to be taken care of as well. Like that.
What do you mean?
I just don't think that. I don't think that that's a sustainable model where it's like, oh, you're back here. If you're not here cooking, then we don't have. You're an essential part of this operation, and yet you're going to be relegated to this one fixed amount of money, right? And then you have people who oftentimes there are some amazing servers who are really good at their job, but for the pay difference to be so disparate between the two, and then even with the front of house, you have no guarantee of actually making that money. You know what I mean? So It's just like this almost like this betting game, and then it's like, well, what are you good at? And well, maybe the line cooks should learn how to be servers. Like, well, but they're cooks, So like, but then all the responsibility is like down. Like restaurants are down to the point where they're not. The margins aren't big enough for them to make up the difference. Like it's already like razor thin as it is. So so that whole thing I think was unsustainable, and part of me wants to go ahead.
Well, I think it was certainly sustainable for 50 years because the whole thing was, and it's weird now because everybody's like, the whole point before was the customers are paying your front of the house salary for you. Like you pay your servers $2.50 an hour, and they don't get paychecks and stuff; they just get cash. And I felt that by not having to pay anybody in the front of the house, you can certainly delegate some of that money to the back of the house.
Right.
But that wasn't what actually happened.
No, it wasn't. And I don't put it on the restaurant owners though, because like they're in a pickle too. Would you? I mean, sorry, I don't put it all on the restaurant owners because I think that they are in a they're up against the wall as well.
I don't put it all on the restaurant owners, but I think that it's like when I work front of the house, what I did for 21 years. I never liked to pool tips because I always felt that I was a better server than everybody else. And I never felt obligated to share any of the money I made outside of the normal tip out the bussers, tip out the runners, tip out the bar. I thought that's our ecosystem out front. And in the back, it's just a different culture altogether. It's like, and it comes with the back, like nobody starts waiting tables because they want to be like a star server who is the executive server of their own restaurant someday and writes a cookbook. It's almost like in the kitchen, that's why so many people in the kitchen work for free. Like they do stages and all that.
It's like an
they
internship.
want to work their way up the ladder.
But when you're in the channel, like to what point the front of house has to deal with the public, and that is worth money.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Because that actually, I can take this and pivot to my next point. Like I said before, I miss going to some of my favorite restaurants or the option to go to them. What I don't miss is the general public, because the entitled restaurant goer is one of the worst people ever, or are
easily
among the worst people.
You're going to dinner with somebody, you can learn so much about who they are as a person based on their behavior in the restaurant.
Yeah,
just from minute one,
Like, speak more about that, because I also agree, but I want to hear your perspective.
Yeah, like the guy who initially, like, if you're there and it just feels entitled to, bark orders at like the guy who's like, give me a bottle of this to like who's clearly the busser. You know, it's not the server, you know, yeah. And then it's just the and not really having any regard for, you know, the volume of their voice. You know, maybe the people that walk in and they feel perfectly fine just slapping a couple tables together on their own without asking. You know, the people who the restaurant's not open yet and they're like, well, that's fine, I'll just sit and wait. And you're like, you don't do that at a bank. You don't do that at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to come in. Like, this is my time without you.
Yeah, come back.
This is my time. Yeah, come back when we're open, like a regular, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just from the beginning, people, I drives me insane when people are because they don't realize that hosting is actually kind of difficult.
Oh, it's the worst part of the whole thing.
Yes, and there's a lot of terrible hosts, don't get me wrong. People don't realize how indispensable a really good host or maitre d' is.
That's right.
For your restaurant.
That's right.
But I hate customers who, you know, you can see they're being led to the dining room. Everything has a system, you know. It's like you're balancing it out service-wise, you know, like people have sections, obviously. And you can see they stop, and as the maitre d' keeps going, they let the maitre d' get like 10 feet away and turns around, and they're like, can we just sit here? Like, you know, like...
Okay, yeah, the standing there as a host, I've worked at this point nearly every position in a restaurant in my life. You know what I mean? I've cooked, I've you know, prep cook, whatever, dishwasher, all of it. Front of house, bartender. Hosting was my least favorite because it is a nonstop onslaught of the worst of humanity. And right when you're done with one, you have to talk to another. Now, granted, most people aren't terrible assholes, you know, like the majority of people are like happy to be there and understand things.
They're like, seat us where you want to seat us,
right? But then there's the people where it's like, oh, I've got like, do you have any open tables? Like, oh, I'm sorry, you got a 45-minute wait or whatever, and they point at an open table. What about that one? Oh my God,
those people are I
never thought of that. Shit, go on over, or they come in with an attitude that they are going to be seated and you are going to seat them because that is what they need. So,
and that's worked for them in other places.
Yeah.
And then the people that, even if they do have a reservation, you know, things don't always go so smoothly for the second turn. You got people camping out at tables, and they make it seem like it's your fault.
Yeah.
That, you know, like that the people aren't leaving. And I'm always like, if you want to go talk to them, you're more than welcome to. Like, you can go over there and say whatever you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can tell them it's your table and you need them to leave. But I was fortunate enough during my hosting years was in Chicago at a restaurant where there was a lot of palm greasing going on, which was nice.
Yeah.
So you get slipped that extra $200-$300 a night, and then they give you $50 to get their coat, whatever. That was certainly an incentive to deal with that because I think I was making like $10 an hour.
Right.
But in the end, I was making like 60. You know.
Right.
It's like,
right. And I don't know, even at that rate, not enough for me to want to deal with the general public.
Oh, the general public is really the worst, and I think that goes back to your original argument. It's like being in the front of the house is not. Being in the back of the house is very hard work. Being in the front of the house is also very hard work because the general public is the fucking worst.
Yes.
And that's just, I just think this is the way restaurants are. I know a lot of people think it needs to change. I don't think it does. I think everything is. Well, now it's all getting broken and it's all fragmented at this point anyway, but that started in like 2006 or whatever. I thought everything up to like 2005, you know, the minute we stopped making cash, like in a lot of places, you know, the minute you didn't walk with all your tips at the end of the night, I got suspicious that things were going to go a certain way, and they did. And by the time I got out, it was just like, I mean... I was still always able to make money wherever I was just because you get good at making money when you know how to do it. But it just, everything was so spiky. You know, charge tips on a paycheck. And it was like, if we do cash, you can have some cash. And if you're not getting cash, you know, that was like the incentive to take that like 10 o'clock table, you know, let everybody else take the cut. It's you're like, oh, what if they spend $500 and that's an extra, you know, $150 in my pocket leaving here tonight? But when you're like, it's going to be on a paycheck and it's going to be taxed, and you're going to get it in 2 weeks, you're like, fuck that. I'm not staying. Like, fuck these people. Like, and then you get the bad attitude going. And everybody's seen me have if you've ever worked with me, you've seen my nuclear meltdowns. Just blow a head gasket or whatever. Just like, I watch myself behaving in a way that I can't stop it. I'm like seeing myself be angry and destructive and mean and like breaking things and just being short with people.
A lot of big
and it's
breaths
like there's a
out
voice
through your
inside of me
nose.
going like, stop. Yeah, I'm like, it's just like, stop it. Like, stop doing this.
Yeah.
Like, go just do a shot or something. Like, and then I'd calm down and then I'd feel embarrassed about it because it was almost like I blacked out.
With rage.
Yeah, I literally would black out with rage, and that's something that I only did in 2 situations. I do it behind the wheel, and I do it when I'm working in a restaurant. Other than that, nothing ever gets me that angry.
Yeah.
But people.
Yeah, I had to leave. I remember because I was bartending at a place called Sonny's, which is an affiliate of whatever the
Yes.
local 188 restaurant group. Affiliate, is that the right word? But you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
And it ended up being an incredibly, like, mind-numbingly high volume craft cocktail bar, which
and it wasn't really designed very well to handle the volume because it would bottleneck with like 20 people in there.
That's right.
You'd get a bottleneck at the bar and you couldn't,
It was designed to be a busy restaurant, and it turned into like the spot. Like, we were where people would go afterwards, and and there's a big difference between being 5 deep at Amigos and just like ripping through cans and drafts and vodka sodas, and then having to make separate your egg yolks and all such happy horse shit.
Yeah.
But I remember when I when I knew that I had to stop, is I had a table slapper. And we're very busy, and I'm sitting there working, and as a bartender, you know this, but like a former bartender, but like as a bartender, when you are ready to serve somebody, you will then make eye contact with that person. Until which point you don't even bother, A, because it raises their expectations, and B, because you're trying to remember all of these things that you need to get exactly right in order to satisfy these people who have been waiting. Because here's the other thing people need to know about bartenders. We desperately, when I don't do it anymore, but like we want you to have your drinks. We want you to have a good time.
Trust me, we are not doing this on purpose.
Yeah, we want to because we want you to be happy. We want to make that money. All of the reasons all arrows point to we want you to get a drink. So I'm in the the zone. I'm just like kind of like cranking out my order, and all of a sudden this guy who's not even looking at me, mind you, he's leaning on the bar. You get pictures. He's got his elbow on the bar, and he's looking back and talking to his people, and he just starts slapping the bar.
Oh, hell no.
Yep.
Hell no.
And I lost my composure, but not in a meltdown kind of way, but in a white hot heat kind of way. Like I was burning like Chernobyl core hot.
Yeah.
And I just walked over, and I got right in front of him, and I looked him in the eye, and I started slapping and asking, "What do you want? Can I help you? Where were you raised? Who taught you that this was a good way to talk to people?" And I walked away, and I think I handed it to my partner. I was like, "You deal. I need a break. I'm out. I'm sorry.
I gotta get out. I can't be any good to you right now. I'll be back in 20, 30.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But then
that's what I would do to people who would snap at me.
Yes.
Their fingers.
Snapping.
I'd snap right back, be like, "What do you want?
Yeah.
Can I help you?" I'd just right in their fucking face.
That's when I knew that I tendered my resignation at the end of that shift, because I knew why am I working at the bar? Well, one, I mean, to make money. Two, if I'm going to do something, I wanted to be a really good bartender. I don't want to just be a bartender. I wanted to do a good job, and we actively tried to be, keep our bar like super as relevant as we could, and try new things and do a good job, and have the music be great, and have people think like, Sonny's, that rules. That was what I was thinking. So if I'm not going to be at that point, playing music predominantly, which I'm lucky, well, not now that all venues are closed down, but that, I wanted to do a really good job. So make money, do a good job, but then also do a good job for the person that hired me. Like, I want to be a good bartender for them, so that their place is being thought of, in a good way.
You want to take pride in where you work.
I want to take pride in where I work and how I work. And if I am at the point where I can't handle, because that guy's not going anywhere. He's just at another bar now. You know what I mean? And when he is gone, there'll be another person like him. And part of the job is to be able to handle the general public and deal with that, that wave of shit. A great example of somebody who's so good at it, JC,
yes, who was your partner at the time?
Yeah, he was one of the people I worked with
behind the bar there.
Yeah. But he would just, you can walk up to him with a loaded grenade and just it'll go off in his face, and the dust will clear. It'll be like, oh, drop something there. What can I get for you, bud?
Yeah, he'll diffuse the situation.
Water off a duck's
but
back.
he's also like a firm hand. That's
yep.
His whole vibe.
Yep.
Sort of, he imparts a vibe that says, don't fuck around. I'm very competent. I'm confident. Mm-hmm. I will get the thing done. Mm-hmm. I will speak to you very clearly. Mm-hmm. To you, just don't.
Yeah, I don't.
Of course, if he.
I was just gonna say I don't have that thing that he has where he can handle that.
No, it's a rare thing. When I realized that I should leave restaurants was probably 10 years before I actually did. It was because people would come in and I'd just be like, what the fuck are they smiling about? Before I even interact with them, I'd be like, what the fuck is so funny to them? Why are they smiling? And then it would be their job to get back in my good graces. And then one day I was like, Joe, you don't own these restaurants. You have no right to take these other people's, livelihood. And just because you hate everybody,
right.
It's not your place to abuse people. Even though it's very satisfying to do that. I remember the best thing I ever did was, there's a lot of good things I did, but this was at the Snug.
Tell them all.
And I had and there was this woman who was annoying me. She was sort of in the background. I was dealing with other customers, and she's like, "Excuse me, sir, do you have a light? Do you have a light?" She kept asking for a light to go out and smoke. Mm-hmm. And I looked at her and I go, I'm like, get. She's like, what? I go on, get. And Margaret, the owner, was out front smoking, and the lady came out, and Margaret's came in laughing. She came out, and she's like, I went in there, I tried to get matches from the bartender, and he told me to get. And then I asked him again, and he told me to get. I was like, go on.
Get.
Actually, I remember you were at the bar, remember, at Local, that time people were leaving, and I was like, take her easy.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it just, it's part of the legacy, and I what actually, what prompted it was I had a shift, I think, at the very end that I talk about in the first episode of this podcast, where I just got so blackout drunk. I mean, I just annihilated, had to be basically airlifted out halfway through my shift because I couldn't stand up. That was sort of my cue. I was like, all right, dude,
that's not good.
You don't even care enough about these jobs to even, not get that,
wasted,
inebriated. Yeah, wasted. You just don't give a shit. I went in there after drinking. I started drinking at 8 a.m, and the shift started at 5 p.m.
Oh, Lord.
But I'm like, I don't even care. And it was one of those Dante from Clerks where I was covering for somebody. So this whole I'm not supposed to be here today, so I just do whatever I want.
Yeah. Yeah, which is
it's always good to get have those incidents on days you weren't supposed to be there.
I guess, yeah. And in retrospect, probably I've engaged in not that exact behavior because I do not have the stamina that you have when it comes to the booze, but
yep.
But certainly I've had moments like that where it's almost like a childish entitlement, like I'm not, I don't care, It's well, then quit if you don't care,
fucking fire me, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, when in reality it's you would give a fuck because then you'd have to find another job,
Well, that's why throughout my restaurant career, I actually worked, it was 21 years, and I worked, and I counted 47 different restaurants. Mm-hmm. And the reason I did that is because I'd always have I'd always be working 3 at a time, 2 shifts. Mm-hmm. That way, if I did want to tell somebody to fuck off, I knew I could. Because I'd have 2 other jobs to fall back on.
You have your eggs all in one basket. Yeah.
Exactly. You put your eggs all in one basket in a restaurant, that's a risky business.
I mean, unless you have, you're in a healthy workspace and you get along, fundamentally with the people that you believe. You got to really believe in it to like duke it out.
You have to sort of like you have to be part of the restaurant's identity.
That's right.
Like there are certain bartenders that are part of the restaurant's identity.
Totally.
And it'd be weird to see them working in another bar.
Yes.
But I also think it's kind of cool when you see people in different contexts, and one's like a cool like sushi bar, then they work at a place like the Snuck, like a dive bar. It's like it's interesting and plus it just breaks things up. But again, the business it's just different now. I started in the late '90s in Chicago, and I just I fell in love with the way it was back then. And it's just not for me. And I'm fucking ancient. I'm 41.
Right.
So
Right, yeah.
I mean, the restaurant business now, I'm like, that's like I'm 80.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's it. It's definitely a young person's game, especially like when I will say that, through all the years of like touring and stuff. And I know I've brought this up to you before, Joe, but like, I've been rock and roll. It's like a thing. It's pretty well documented. The excesses and all this stuff, right? The self-abusive behavior and all the shit that leads to all the shit, like
all of the decadence,
like all the things that for me make Almost Famous like one of the saddest movies I've ever seen. Like I don't know why people love that movie, because to me it's just like ugh,
yeah,
like that whole I'm a Golden God scene is actually not a good time.
No, and it's not. And I actually spoke with well, in the John Wyman episode of the show, we talk about this incident. We don't name names,
right?
But we talk about somebody trying to sort of replicate that incident and it not going very well.
Oh Lord,
I don't know if you know.
I don't know. It's not ringing a bell, but maybe we can sidebar it after.
It was like one of those things where he was like, the times that I've wanted to get out of the music business, like dealing with musicians and. No. That, what it was? It was the reason that he doesn't have a lot of parties anymore in his house.
Oh,
because
I know now. I'm in. I got you. Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah.
Like it sounds funny, but actually in the moment it's not. It's actually super self-destructive, and it's really bad for you. And to be in a business where,
what if you don't hit the pool? Yeah,
yeah, exactly. The chances of you hitting the pool are actually way less than you.
And now everybody has a dead body on their hands.
Yeah, it's inconsiderate on every level. It's shit behavior. It's garbage. In the moment, you think it's fun, but even in the moment, you're like, I don't know about this shit.
Yeah, you're like, should I?
Right, but like even through like all that excess, and I never had. Actually, that's not true. I think I did. I was contemplating jumping off a hotel balcony into the pool once. It was in Los Angeles.
But contemplating and doing it are two different things.
That's exactly right. And luckily, if I didn't have the wherewithal to make the good decision, I was at least surrounded by people who cared about me. Or like, hey, you're stupid. Go to bed. Like, oh, good call. But even through all of that, I never saw anything as self-destructively savage as the restaurant business when I got into it. Right. The sheer levels of excess and access to drugs and just nonstop booze, and it was just like a culture of like trading booze, and it's just booze all the time. And that was really I hit rock bottom as a bartender. That's when I started to like. It's actually like when I put in my notice there, I was like, this is not working. This is not sustainable and must change.
If you listen to your body.
Yeah, well, yeah. Everything about my life was telling me that I was doing it wrong, including but not limited to my body and my relationships and everything that goes along with that was screaming at me for 4 years, like, hey, stop, stop.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know. Better late than never.
Well, you got to find out, what's at the end. Can't stop before you get to the bottom.
Yeah.
You got to see what it's like,
Yeah, I guess
your bottom. It's obviously not the. Everybody has a different bottom.
Everybody has a different bottom. Yeah, I definitely hit.
I hear you, man.
And I'm glad I got away from it. Now I can. And what I'm seeing now too, which makes me sincerely happy, is that, in general, from my perspective, it seems like the culture surrounding food
way
service
different now.
Is getting better, and that's really
it's not like
thing.
that at all. It's not like that. It's like, people will drink, but it's not like Well, because it's also, restaurants used to be a place where you would work there because nobody would judge you for being a shit show or a pirate or a felon or a multiple felon. Like, like you were amongst like-minded people who wouldn't be like, why did you drink before the shift? Like, you might get in trouble, but they're not going to be like, why would you do that? Because they know why you do it. Because they, everybody knows what's up with everybody else, and I think, yeah, and like you said, it's definitely good for people. Like, I romanticize it because it's in the past.
Sure.
But I mean, it definitely fucked me up. I had a lot of, really rugged fucking experiences in restaurants, and I'm honestly astonished that I'm alive after even going back as far as my early 20s. So
yeah, yeah, you really like shouldered it. And I know that I mean, you and I, pardon the cough there. You and I talk openly about these kinds of things, and I'm always happy to talk to you about it. But the sheer volume of things that you have done or at various times, you know what I mean? And I'm not it's not like the cat's out of the bag. Like, you very publicly all the death matches and all that stuff is just this lifestyle that was wow, you know what I mean? Just high volume, and high, fast paced and yeah, it was sincerely nuts. And I can say that both with a tinge of nostalgia, because I won't say that they were all bad times. They were
great times.
But they were
just, the next mornings weren't so great.
No.
And the thing is, I spent so long building that person, that character up, that he's hard to shake now, his reputation still precedes him when he goes places, even though that's not me. I mean, I'm still, obviously have my problems with alcohol and whatnot, but, that's not, that I'm not that guy anymore, because how could I be? That guy wouldn't be alive. He's not sustainable.
Right.
But I'm glad, the one thing I'm glad about is I was able to document a lot of it. So at least I have that, it's rather than having it just be stories you tell, at least I have a lot of documentation of it.
Yeah,
so
you did a good job with that, and you continue to do a good job with that. It always amazes me too, how, and not because I don't think you're worth it or anything like this, but just that you have built such a following of people. They look to see what you're doing, and I guess I'm just looking at it through different eyes. When you post, I'm like, oh, that's my friend Joe who's posted some food that looks delicious. But there are people that follow you in the food world, and rightfully so, because you know what fucking time it is when it comes to food and drink. And I'm always reminded from time to time, oh yeah, Joe's pretty famous.
Yeah, I mean, it's I certainly, I try.
Well, I think you do a good job.
It's funny, those.
One thing I like about what you do, Joe, is opposed to much in the same way that one could argue that Faith No More is a very great band, and that Epic, when it came out off The Real Thing, and I want to say 87-ish.
I think it was 89.
89, right.
Yeah.
But that was a groundbreaking song, and that they're a groundbreaking band. But what is also true is that greenlit Limp Bizkit to do their thing.
Yes, it is.
So, but there are people, there are people who are documenting food. I mean, obviously, it got to a point where it's just oh my God, the food blogging, But
you Instagrammed your water.
Yeah, thanks. Love the glass. It's the hashtag the little things. But but what I do like about how you do it is that you, excuse me, coughing again. I just haven't had a drink of water in a while, so sorry about that.
Oh, no.
I just don't want to alarm the listener. But you do know what you're talking about, because you do understand how food is constructed. You do understand the ingredients. You understand how to cook and render meats, vegetables. You know what I mean? You've done your homework. You're not just rolling around talking out of your ass.
Right. Look where I went. Look at, yeah, exactly. You can tell the people that do that, and they drive me pretty crazy, where they're just
I bet.
I did this for see how many likes I could get, and
yep.
And yeah, I just try to post pictures, and if they're food pics, I try to follow the rule of is this picture going to make somebody hungry? Then post it.
Right.
If it's not, if it's like a picture of something with a bite taken out of it, or it's got like one of those like hipstamatic filters on it from back in the day.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to post that, because I'm like a blue sandwich doesn't like, that doesn't look like something I'd want to put in my mouth. But, yeah, I mean, that's food and drink are, pretty much been my obsession for a very long time. And I'm, it's good to know that it's, that it shows, that I've accumulated these experiences, and it's weird because I started kind of before it was such a big thing, and then it's kind of in the middle of it, like everybody and their mom is like way into food, which is good because you can have something to talk about with most people, because everybody has an opinion on it generally. But you've obviously seen the downside to that as well.
Yes, I have. It's called Yelp.
But yes, it is. Yes. Huh.
Get off of Yelp. Well, the thing about like everybody kind of jumping in and doing it for a while is there was a huge boom of it, and then it kind of went away. And I think that you have, when the waters recede, I think you'll still be there celebrating good food and good drink, right?
That's the goal, actually. I mean, that's it's like it doesn't stress me out that for the first time, I'm not like in a long time, I'm not the food editor for any particular magazine. I'm just like, whatever. I mean, I'm still going to do my thing, and people recognize me, and I'm sure I'll end up working someplace else and, doing whatever. But I like to kind of, think that I sort of stand alone as a brand, I guess, and that I don't hopefully annoy people too much.
The cheese stands alone. The cheese stands alone.
Hey. I'm like, yeah, the cheese stands alone.
Well, I'm glad we finally got to do our Splitsies episode. Our funsies
I am very
Splitsies.
Glad. It was a long road.
It was a long road, and it took a quarantine to get us here, but we did it.
See, another thing I like about the quarantine.
That's what I call a COVID cutie.
No, that's what I call. Yeah, it's like a new version of that's what I call music.
Yeah. That's what I call a COVID cutie.
COVID cutie.
Now that's a COVID cutie. Anything that happens during the now times that is a plus.
Yeah, it's a COVID cutie. It's a regular COVID cutie is what that is.
I've been really pushing that tag or tagline here at home, and my wife is having none of it. She's like, it's awful. It's like, I know. I designed it to be awful.
The key is you got to wear her down. Just keep doing it. I mean, don't ever stop.
Caitlin very obviously has a high tolerance for idiocy, or else she wouldn't have bought the company.
That's right.
Yeah,
the idiot company. Yeah,
but it was damn good to talk to you again, and I look forward to. You know what I would say? I would say that this conversation between us was a real COVID cutie.
You get no arguments over here.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
It's time for Happy Hour, presented by Maine Spirits. As usual here at Happy Hour, we show you how to make drinks at home. But one thing we've been thinking is, do you know how to do the most basic stuff? For instance, when I first bartended my first night, my coworker turned to me and said, "Can you go make some simple syrup?" And I said, "Sure." How do I do that? Because you don't know until you know. One thing that I think a lot of us take for granted is sour mix. Oftentimes it'll come off the gun. I personally don't think that tastes very good. Or if you're in a restaurant, you'll have fresh sour mix made with fresh juice, and that's really the business. And you may or may not know how to make it at home. Now, you could look it up online, which is basically what you're doing now. But I thought I would take a minute and show you how to make your own delicious homemade sour mix. Let's get our tools together. The tools you'll need. Why did I do that? You will need a Pyrex pitcher or something like that, or a bowl, a mixing bowl of some sort, to receive juice and to make your simple syrup. You'll need a bar spoon, and then eventually you'll need a glass or food-grade plastic container for storage. The ingredients: sugar, hot water, fresh lemon juice, and fresh lime juice. Let's build this thing. In either a saucepan or a Pyrex or a mixing bowl, add 1/2 cup of sugar and then 1/2 cup boiling water. Now stir until the sugar is completely dissolved. Now add a 1/2 cup of fresh lemon and a 1/2 cup of fresh lime juice. And voila, there you have sour mix. Now, what can you do with this? Well, for starters, you can add any amount of any kind of liquor to it, and it will taste fantastic. You don't want to do any amount. But if you add 2 ounces of tequila and then the sour mix, it's a margarita. Or whiskey, it's a whiskey sour. Vodka sour. Gin sour. So on and so forth. Rum, it pretty much is the ketchup of the bartending world. So now you know how to make a fresh sour mix, and I promise you, if you make this yourself at home, you will never want to drink pre-made sour mix ever again. This mix you just made will keep for 1 to 2 weeks in your fridge. So, kind of give it a try. Give it a try and explore your liquor cabinet. I mean, it's probably not going to work great with like Fireball, but you shouldn't, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but probably wouldn't work great. This has been Happy Hour. It is brought to you by Maine Spirits. You can find out more about the wonderful spirits that Maine Spirits brings into the state of Maine by visiting mainspirits.com. You can download their app for your smartphone, or you can find them on Instagram at main_spirits. And as always, we encourage you to drink deliciously and responsibly. Spencer Explores the Universe is brought to you by Maine Spirits. You can visit them online at mainspirits.com or download their app or visit them on Instagram at main_spirits. The show is also brought to you by Bull Moose, serving Maine and New Hampshire's music, movie, video game, and book and trinket needs since 1782. Also brought to you by Sun Tiki Studios at 375 Forest Avenue or at suntikistudios.com. Spencer Explores the Universe is a Mistakes Were Made production.